Good evening, everybody. I'm going to show you how to design analytical cash book in Excel. Right. Now, to start with, you have to open Microsoft Excel. And after opening, you will create 2 additional sheets to the existing sheet 1. The first sheet is labeled as file. The second sheet is labeled as analytical. The third one will be the receipt and payment account. Now, you start the design from the file sheet. You will be required to set up the file sheet as you see here. In column A, we have the account class. What this means is that our chart of accounts has been categorized into 3. We have income, expense, and we have assets. Then in column B, we list all the income accounts. And over here, balance brought down has been classified as part of the income accounts. Column C considers the expenses that we are going to have in our system. And the column D is for our assets. Now, having done this, the next step is to assign names to each of the columns that we have created so far. And when you are assigning the names, you are not to include the values in row 1, that is the headings. This means that if you want to name column A, you have to start from row 2, that is A2, for instance, up to A4. So you highlight from the income up to assets. Then you click inside the name box. This place is called name box. You click here and you define the name. And this time we are going to call this as account class, ACCT class. Please all should note that when you are assigning a name for a range, you cannot create a space between the name. So you realize that in the sheet, that is in cell A1, the account class comes with a space. But in the name box, the space is removed. After typing, you have to save it by pressing the Enter key. So you press the Enter key to save the name. You should also note that the name account class is not representing individual cells within the range. So you see when you select the income, it gives you A2. When you select the expense, it gives you the A3. When you select asset, it gives you A4. But the moment you highlight the 3 together, then you get the name account class. So we can apply similar approach to name the other columns. Now, column B, we will highlight from the balance BD. This time, you have to go beyond the IGF. The essence for doing that is that if you highlight only up to IGF, any additional income account that you record in, let's say, row 7, could not be accessed in the system. So what we need to do is to give room for future items. So in this case, I'm going to highlight from B2 up to say B10. This means that any account that will come after IGF, the system will accept the account in the system. So I highlight this, then come here and name this as income. After typing, I have to press the Enter key again to save the name. Now, column C, note something here. Under the account class, the name is expense, which is singular. But in column C, the heading is called expenses, which is plural. We name them using what is classified in column A, but not the heading. So what this means is that the name for column C is going to be an expense, which is singular, but not expenses. So with this also, I'll pick from C2 to let's say C15. Then go into the name box and type expense as singular, not expenses as plural. Now after typing, I press down the enter key once again. Last but not least is to name the asset. The asset also, the heading is plural, but what is classified in the column A is singular. So I'll name that also using the singular word asset. So this, I'll pick from D2 to let's say D6. And I go in there and type my name asset. I hit the enter key. Now, all names that are defined have been stored in the system. One, you can delete the name. You can edit it to, for instance, to expand the range you selected initially. You can also edit it to change the name you assign to the range. To see the names we have created in the system, we go to the formulas ribbon, and from the formulas ribbon, we click on the name manager. Name manager is here. So we click on the name manager. When you click on the name manager, all the names that are defined are seen here. So we can have the account class, the asset, expense, and the income. Let's suppose that the asset account, the asset name, which ends at row 6, you could see the 6 there. Assuming I'm adding a new item, which is going into row 7, then I will have to come here to expand the range that was initially set to 6. To do that, I will highlight the asset, then go to edit. When I come here, see the moment you click inside, this refers to the range that you initially selected will be highlighted for you. So now, for instance, I want to take this to row 7. So I put, initially it was 6. So I'll clear only the 6, leaving the $sign and enter 7. Then after that, I click OK. So this name has been edited. You can delete the name. You can also click on new to add a new name. Right. So that is how the name manager is used. Now, the next step in our design is to move to the analytical cash book to set up the sheet. So we are going to see how the analytical cash book is also designed. Now, we move to the analytical sheet. In this case, we are going to start, I'm going to start the design from row 7. In fact, at least row 1 normally reserved for the titles, row 1 and 2 reserved for the company name and the title of your report. So you can decide to start anywhere beyond the row 1, 2. But because I will also need another row for balances, then maybe row 3 or 4 should also be left out. But for the purpose of this particular system, I am going to start my design on row 7. So in row 7, the structure of the analytical sheet has the following headings. We have receipt, we have reference, we have date, we have details, we have payment, we have account class, we have account, right? These are the main headings that you have in your analytical cash book. Now, as we have all learned from petty cash book in our financial accounting, we do normally create analysis columns that captures the expenses and the asset accounts. So from column H, I, J, K, L going, we will list all the accounts that we have already entered on the file sheet. Now, to make the system work effectively, we should make sure that the spelling of the accounts from the file sheet are not different from what you are going to show in the analytical sheet. So to avoid the situation of misspelling, what we should do is that you will have to copy the accounts from the file sheet and paste them onto the analytical sheet. You should also know that income accounts are not listed here. We only list expenses, assets, and sometimes liability accounts. So any account relating to income is not listed on the analytical cash book. Now, you realize that in the file sheet, these accounts are in a vertical column. They are in a column form, that is vertically. But in the analytical sheet, we want them listed horizontally. So we are going to learn how we can copy something, some values in a range, which is in a vertical form, into a horizontal form. This is what we term as copy and transpose. So we are going to see how this is done. I'll highlight all my expenses starting from rent to bank charges. From home, you see copy. You can also use Ctrl+C. So you copy this. When you move to the analytical sheet, usually we know of copy and paste. If you paste this at the moment, you see that they are also pasted vertically, but that is not how we want it. So I will undo. What I want is that this account should be arranged in a row, but not in a column. So to transpose it, you see where the paste icon is. There is an arrow below the paste. When you click on the arrow, you see several icons, several of them. This one, this is called transpose. So you see, though I have not clicked, but you realize that the accounts have already been listed from column H, I, J, K, L, M going. The moment I click, the accounts will be pasted. And this time, they are pasted horizontally. Another way we could do it, which maybe the first is even the shortest approach, is to still go to the arrow, and this time we select paste special, and then we come here and select transpose. When I click OK, it will still paste horizontally. Right. Now, we also have to paste our assets after the bank charges. So I'll still go to the file sheet, copy the two asset accounts, and then back to the analytical sheet. From column Q, I will transpose it. Right. Now, I've been able to list all my accounts. The next part of the exercise is to create a table. We are going to work in a table. To create a table in Excel, as we all know, every table should have headings. And the headings are what we have already entered in row 7. So you either have to select everything that you have as your headings and start your table. Alternatively, as the headings start from column A to column, you see, column A to column S, and the first value in the table will also start from, the headings are in row 7, and the first value will come from row 8. So I have the option to select any of the cells within row 7 and 8 from column A to column S. So for instance, if I select C8, someone else could also select E7. So anywhere within the two rows, you pick one of the cells Then to create the table, go to Insert. From Insert, there is Table here. When you click on Table, a dialog box will appear. Create Table. It's asking a question. Do you want to create a table? Where is the data for your table? That picks the row containing the headings. There is this option that we shouldn't always forget to select. My table has headers. So we tick that box, then we click OK. The table has been created for us. Another alternative way to create a table is to pick any cell as usual, then use a, what do you call it? The home menu. From the home menu, you come to Format as Table. Then this one will give you several designs to choose from. So you click on the design, and then you take My table has headers. Excuse me, I've made some mistake there. So Format as Table, you pick a design, and My table has headers. You click OK. It gives you the same table. The last approach for a table design is to use a shortcut key, which is Control+T. Control+T will also create a table. So now our table has been nicely created for us. Each time you create a table, you will have to name the table. The reason for naming a table is that in one particular workbook, like this, as we have this workbook, we can have as many tables as possible. So in order to be able to make suitable reference from appropriate table, you have to assign names to them. Else, a time will come, you may not be able to even recognize a table. So as soon as you click Create, the system will open the design ribbon for you. And from the design ribbon, if you look at the extreme left, you'll see table name. This is where we name a table. We should be very careful to distinguish the table name from the name box. Some students mistakenly type in the table name from the name box, which is wrong. It should rather be within the table name. Now, this design ribbon, when you are out of the table, you will see that as part of the ribbons in your workbook. The moment, if you want to get a design ribbon, it means you have to click inside the table. So the moment you click inside the table, the design ribbon opens. And then at the extreme left, you could have the table name. So the table name is called Analytical. That is how I'm calling this table, Analytical. Right. Now, this is the next step where we got into. Going forward, how is the system going to work? In column A, which is the receipt, any income or any amount of money that we receive, we will record the amount here. The reference, this will record the source document number, be it the check number, payment voucher number, or receipt number. That will be captured here. The date of the transaction will come here. Detail of the transaction will come here. And if the transaction is a payment, the amount paid will also come here. But if it is a receipt, then the amount received will be in column A. Under the account class, we have different classes of accounts. So if the transaction is involving income account, then you have to indicate income under the account class so that when you get to the account column, you'll be able to get access to the income account. If the account for the transaction is an expense, then you have to select expense here so that by getting to the account column, you'll be able to get access to the expense. Right. So we'll create some list to display the 3 account classes that we have on the far sheet. We are going to see how the list is created. To create a list, you select the cell that you want the list to appear. And in this case, the cell is F8. Be careful not to double click inside. See, when you double click inside and the cursor is active, you won't get access to the ribbons. See, the ribbons are fade out. So you have to make sure you just select it. And now all the ribbons are active. To create a list, we use the data ribbon. So we click on data. And from data, you go to data validation. By default, each cell in a worksheet is validated to accept any value. You realize that at the start of the course, whatever I'm typing, the system accepts it. I'm able to type anything anywhere because it is validated to accept any value. But now I am going to change the validation rule for this particular cell, not to accept any value, but to create a list for me. So I will choose list over here. If you say you want a list, then you should tell us the source of the list. So we have source also over here. Now, on the far sheet, these 3 items were named as ACCT class, if you remember. So I'll put in equal sign in the source and type ACCT class, combined word. When I finish, you click OK. Then you come and click here. You see the items showing in a list. Then on the account, I'll create another list here. This time, the list will depend on whatever I select as the account class. So if I pick income, then I expect the list here to give me income account. If I pick expense, then I expect the list here to give me expenses. So I'm going to start. This time I click under the account. Still from the data ribbon to data validation. Then I choose list once again. Unlike the previous one, the account class, here I cannot use any of the other names. The reason is that if I decide to use income, then the list will give me all the income accounts. If I use expense, the list will give me only the expenses. If I use asset, the list will give me only the asset accounts. So what I should do is that I have to create a list that will depend on whatever I will select under account class. So I term this as a conditional list. It's a list based on a particular condition. The condition is the class that you select is going to define the accounts that should appear here. So we use a function known as indirect. So we put in the equal sign and then indirect bracket open. This list is being created in column G, but it depends on the value in column F. So in this case, I'll put in the first cell in column F, which is F8. Why not G8, but F8? Though I am creating the list in G8, but whatever value that I'm going to get in G8 will depend on the value I have in F8. So it means we are using F8 to look out for values in G8. That is why the F8 is entered in the bracket. And when I finish, I click OK. This message appearing on your screen, which says that the source currently evaluates you an error. Do you want to continue? It is because no account class has been selected so far. That is why the message has come. So just say yes, I want to continue. Now we try if we can pick something. See, nothing is being selected unless you pick a class. So I've picked income, and then when I come here, I'm able to get an income account. You see the scroll bar, you can go up and down. And when I pick, let's say, expense, and come here, I'm able to see all the expenses account. Right. When I pick asset and get back here, I'll be able to see all my asset accounts. That is it. Now, the next step is to allocate payment to the various accounts. Now, if I make a payment of 100 cedis for rent, so let's say my account is expense, and I come and select rent here, I'll expect the 100 to be recorded under rent. This is how the analytical cash book is expected to work. Now, to make it automated, we are not supposed to type the value to the account, to the respective account. All typing should be done under the payment column and then selection of your account. The posting to the right account should be done by the system itself. And with this, it requires the if function to perform this task. So, as we have already learned in our previous lesson, if function is a conditional statement. If statement is a conditional statement. It has the syntax, logical test, value if true, value if false. Now, the logical test is the condition. For instance, we are going to say that if the account that is being selected in the in column G in cell G8, if the account tends to be the same as the heading in H7, so it means that in this case, the logical test will be if G8 equals, oh, my keyboard is disturbing. If G8 equals H7, this means that should in case whatever account I pick in H7, if that account should be the same as the heading in H7, then the value if true, then I'll expect whatever value I have entered in E8 to appear. So the value I have entered in E8 should be posted to this rent column. If the account in G8 is not the same as the heading in H7, then the value if false should apply. And in this case, the value if false, I'll expect that the place should be empty cell. And this is how we express the empty cell. To get it, you hold the shift key and you tap the quotation key twice. So this is the double quotation. You tap it twice. That means nothing. Right. Now, there are three types of cell referencing. Whenever you are doing this particular if statement, you have to know about cell referencing. We have a relative reference. Example is simply to say G8, which is a relative reference. We have what you call absolute reference, which is what we normally use like $sign, $G, $H. This is what you call absolute reference. Then we have mixed reference. Mixed reference, we could have $GH, or we could also have G $. 8. Each of these is a relative reference. Now, when you use relative reference and you copy the formula from one place to another, the reference will change to pick the appropriate cell reference. When you use the absolute reference, it will remain constant throughout. For a mixed reference, now see the dollar sign is attached to the G, which means that the system is going to lock the G. Wherever you drag to, G will remain constant. But the row number, which is 8, could keep changing, but depending on where you go. Then with this one also, the dollar sign is attached to the 8. It will lock the 8 and allow the G to be changing. And at what point do we use the column being locked or the row being locked? An instance whereby a formula will be entered and you have to drag the formula across a row. Then you could decide that you will lock if you lock, for instance, if you put in a function like dollar $G8 here, you see, equals $G8, and you press the enter key. When you drag it to I, check it and see. You see that G8 is remaining constant. When you drag it to the next column, the G8 is still there. So what this means is that you have locked the row, the column, this is the G, but the row can change. And the row can only change when you drag the formula downwards. And you see, when you come here, it will become G9. This time, the row number has changed, but the column heading is still G. But when we drag it across the row, whereby the column heading was supposed to change, it did not change. It is still G. But if we had made it, for instance, this type, G$8, let us see how that would have been. G$8. And then we drag this. See, this place has become H8. You see, this place has become I8. We get that? So this one, when you make it G$8, the column heading will be changing when you drag across a row, and the row number will be constant when you drag it across a column. So when I drag this one below, you see, it is still G$8. It is also still what? G$8. So we should note how this referencing is used. Now, we are going to create a formula using the if function to allocate the payment to the various accounts. It's a very simple formula, very simple formula, which we can all understand. The function is if keyboard. All right, the function is if $G8 equals $7, $G8 equals $7, right, comma, then $E8. Otherwise, the place should be empty. Now, this is how the formula should be, and let us try to interpret it. Why is the $sign attached to the G but not the 8? Because the G where the account is went, this particular first account is in J8. When you move to the next row, the account will be in J9. So then 8 is not supposed to be locked, so that when it moves down to the next row, it will change to 9. Why is the J being locked? The J is locked because the account column, the column account is constantly in column G. So that one, the column should be locked. Now this H, this one, the H7, why is it maintaining the H unlocked and the 7 locked? It is because now when you drag the formula across the row, the H from here, this is the rent. When you get to the insurance, you should be able to change to maintain to become I. When you get to the motor running, you should change to become J, and the donation should change to become K. But when you are dragging downwards to row 9, the 7 should remain 7 because the headings are constantly on row 7. The amount is constantly in column E, so the column E is locked. But the row number 8 is open, so that when you get to the next row, which is row 9, the 8 could become 9. So this is the simplest formula to do the allocation. So when you finish, you press the enter key. Then you pick where the formula is, place the cursor at the bottom right. When you get this type of cross, then you can drag it. You remember when the cursor is in the middle, which gives you this white cross, is for highlighting, right? When you place it on the edges, it is for cut and paste, right? You see, the whole thing has moved here. But when you have the cursor on the bottom right, this is for copy and paste, or what you call drag or autofill. So we drag it, and now we have the formula across. So let us test and see. Because I have paid 100 cedis here, and I have chosen rent, you see the amount is already under rent. Now, if I change the account to insurance, it moves to insurance. And I change to scholarship, it goes to scholarship. And I pick the motor running, it comes to the motor running. So this is how the analytical sheet is designed. Very, very simple. Okay, now the next exercise is to calculate balances. So in A4, I'll type in total receipt. Then in E4, I'll type in total payment. And maybe here, I'll type balance. Right, so this is how I'll do it. To get my total receipt, below the total receipt, which is A5, I'll put in equal to sum bracket. Now, what do I want to sum? I want to sum up the receipt column from a table known as Analytical. So I mentioned the table name, Analytical, AN, and I see the Analytical here. And you see that the system will pick the whole table, right? But when you open the square bracket, there you see the various columns in the table. So I'll pick the receipt. So this gives me the formula to get the total receipt. So equal to sum the receipt column from the Analytical cash book. Alternatively, you type in the equal sign, then your sum function, you just come and click here, and you get the sum analytical receipt. Right. With the clicking, assuming that your table has been extended to cover row 9, and you use the clicking approach, let us see, sum. This time, when I click here, it gives me A8. The reason is, this time the table goes beyond the row 8. So to get it right, I'll have to highlight up to row 9. And this gives me sum analytical receipt. So we should always note that. And I advise that you keep working with only one row until you are done with your system. So I have calculated my total receipt. I'll do same for total payment. So you go to sum, then come and click under the payment column. I get some analytical payments, right? Then I enter. The balance is going to be total receipt minus total payment. So this, I get my balance. Then I will have to compute total for each of the expenses. These totals are required to be transferred to the receipt and payment account. So here, I'll type my sum again, sum bracket, and click here, and then enter. As for this, I can drag it across. Right, so I'm getting the totals for all the columns. The last thing I'll do to close the analytical sheet is to format the columns to give us accounting values. Now this 100 here just look like a number, not a value or accounting value. So the entire column A, I'll pick it and come and use this comma, and it tends to give me accounting. See, the accounting is there. Column E, the whole of this will contain values. So I'll pick here and click on this. The balance, only this side contains value, so I'll just pick this. And I can pick from the rent where the cursor is in the middle of each and the arrow pointing down. I can pick all the other columns together and then select the accounting. Right, so this is the analytical cash flow. Right, let me save changes.